Good evening. So tonight we're going to be talking about delivering the digital economy to the African diaspora. So that's more than the continent with 1.3 billion of us, but the entire diaspora. We go across Europe, the Americas, and Australia. So that is a very vast and diverse population. And there are a number of opportunities that are presented within that. We are talking about infrastructures like operating systems, telecommunication systems that go globally. So the panel of expertise that are with us today encompass TV broadcast, programming, ticket booking events. The Prime Minister, who isn't with us yet, we've had a couple of technical difficulties, and the CEO of a crypto coin that can literally bring the entire ecosystem together. So what we're going to do this evening is explore exactly how we can culminate these entities to deliver to the entire diaspora of 1.5 billion, which is an amazing marketplace to be in. So first of all, I'd like to introduce guests that are with us. So Paul Lawrence, Yemi, and Robert, if you could introduce yourself, starting with Paul, and tell us a little bit about what you do.
Hi, good evening, everyone. First of all, thanks for inviting me onto this program. My name is Paul Lawrence. I am lifelong member of the 100 Black Men of London. Probably more importantly for this session, CEO of Just Tickets, which is an online platform where you can post your events and sell tickets directly to the public.
Lovely. And Yemi, if you could introduce yourself, sir.
Yeah, thanks very much for the opportunity to be as part of this group, especially tonight. And yes, my name is Yemi Onigbode, and I come from a traditional programming background, but I've migrated from that now into building and developing and implementing enterprise solutions. So I currently implement global solutions for banks, not just in the UK, but all over the world. And my area of expertise is more or less an enterprise architect, looking at cloud solutions and enterprise business application across multiple finance organizations.
And Robert, if you could introduce yourself, please, sir.
Hi, Dean. Pleasure to be here today. My name is Robert Robinson. I am the CEO and founder of an online digital-based platform in the process of developing. That platform is a video production platform, so we will be online media, over 10 different genres across the digital global sphere.
Fantastic. So just before the other guests join us, and in case they jump in, I'll give them a chance to chime in on this question. What digital infrastructures do we need on the continent and to serve the diaspora in terms of service applications?
I think we've lost the audio.
Okay. Can you hear me?
No, it's very faint.
Okay.
Better. That's better.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll repeat the question. So what digital infrastructures do we need to serve the diaspora? And let's look at it from China's point of view, who literally resisted all of the external services. So with Hawaii, they resisted operating systems, other social networks, and they started from scratch. So if we could start with you, Paul, and your vision as to what problems we'd actually be solving in terms of what we need.
Well, I think, to look at the question, and it was interesting to hear what Yemi does, because in my other life, I am an infrastructure IT consultant as well. And I work very specifically on infrastructure projects, mostly customer-based, And so when I think about the infrastructures we need, I think the first thing I'd start with is that actually some of those infrastructures already exist. And the primary thing that I'm speaking about here is, of course, the cloud, as people call it, the internet. It's already there. And it's really about us to make a decision to start to reap what's already there and what's available. We don't have to create anything new for ourselves. We can use that cloud infrastructure. And that's the first step that I think we should be using. There's obviously economies of scale of using the cloud as a place to host our facilities and what we want to do. Then we need to move down. We need to come down and look at the day-to-day type of applications and services that we use as people already in the diaspora. Things that we're already using, things that we're already using on a day-to-day basis. And I'm talking about the very basic stuff. So we're talking about stuff like television, which we're already doing. We need to be talking about stuff like banking. We need to be talking about stuff like telecommunications. All of these things are just day-to-day stuff that we already use, we already pay for, and we could be doing them for our own selves as part of our digital infrastructure. And that then opens up the door for our own, not just TV, which is obviously, but our other media outlets. And I'm sure before the day is ended, someone is going to say, if we control our own media, we control our own story.
Absolutely. And the same question to you, Robert, possibly from a media perspective.
Most definitely. I mean, I 100% agree with what Paul said in regards to we've already got the infrastructure, which I feel that unfortunately we're not using to the full capacity that we could use that infrastructure. And we're more prone to allowing other people to then create those things within that infrastructure, and we just become consumers to them. I'm a 100% believer in full ownership of our own stuff, but yet we don't have to reinvent the wheel. So from a media aspect, you know, the infrastructures are already there. It's about taking more control over time. And as Paul said, it does allow you to control your own narrative. So for example, you know, just looking at this whole COVID-19 situation and where we are now, you'll see a lot of the major service providers are limiting, you know, whether good or bad, you know, that's a whole nother argument, kind of limiting various different conversations, because they're allowed, you know, they can control the narrative which they want to go out there because they control the systems and the platforms. Well, those systems are already built on infrastructures what already exists. So therefore, our job is to create our own systems. So HMP TV is its own platform, which will create content for our own people and therefore deliver our own narrative, depending on what that may be wherever we are within the world. And the fact that the internet is such a digital infrastructure globally, we're able to connect globally. We're able to have content created globally. We're able to interact with individuals globally without having to physically interact with them. I can get content made in Jamaica. I can get content made in Uganda, telling those stories, telling those narratives, and just create a central place for where that is. At the same time, we've also got media infrastructures that already exist, such as social media as it stands. And at the present moment, we're utilizing those mediums to further reach our communities globally, because they've already created an infrastructure already reaching our communities. Our job is to piggyback on the back of those to get the reach that we need to our people, but then bring them back to things which then belong to us, no matter what they are. And, you know, having coders and people who understand that enable us to not only then create these platforms on the infrastructures that are already there, but then to program and code those infrastructures to do whatever we need is necessary going forward. As a platform, while we're using, you know, our web hosting, maybe utilizing various different companies, our objective is, as we develop and move forward, we start getting more involved in the actual infrastructure part. So we want to move from using various servers where a lot of our content is stored at the moment in the cloud into having our own servers, so that we have the various hardware tools to be able to have even further control of the things that we do, and then connect that with other infrastructures and people, depending on what they're building. So, media is a classic example of how these infrastructures can be used, and you don't have to reinvent the wheel. The hardware to build, as technology goes forward, the hardware becomes cheaper, far more accessible. The learning skills to be able to utilize that hardware and software is now available and can be shared globally. Many people are against the 5G revolution, as to speak, but it's going to be part of our lives. It's how we are best equipped to utilize it and get the best out of it. So, from a media perspective, being able to reach people globally. I mean, before I even started, I've got people in Uganda who wanted to get involved, serious people in Uganda wanted to get involved and see what this is going to produce, because this allows us to reach the diaspora through this medium globally. And our job is just to make sure that we harness which is already there and utilize it for our best purposes.
Excellent. Robert touched on a very important point, and this is about the further down the rabbit hole we go, getting into the hardware. So that really broaches on the security question, because at the moment, we don't have the control of security as far as other people's platforms are served. So you can end up in Facebook jail, you can have posts banned from Twitter, you can actually be deplatformed. You'd look at someone whose shows were as diverse as London Real and say, how could you be deplatformed from LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter? But it's actually a concern, which means that we don't have freedom of communication security when there might be something that's very prevalent to our community in terms of attacks, just like the Chinese being the African diaspora being attacked in China. And if we didn't have the ability to report on that, now, as it stands, we still can, but this is a security issue that may come up. So, Yemi, if you could speak a little bit about the infrastructures and what it would take to produce the clouds and what we may need in terms of hardware to go into that journey to start talking about creating viable alternatives to what we already see out there now.
Right, that's a very, very big area if we're thinking about setting up our own secure cloud environments, more or less like a cage, as it's called. And there's so many other competitors out there who could actually provide a similar kind of infrastructure. You've got the likes of Amazon, Google, Oracle, a lot of other vendors coming out doing their own thing. Now, if we're looking at building something similar in the African continent, then we would have to think about the server, the security, the bandwidth, all the different applications that need to run to provide all those services. And there is a model that we can follow using similar kind of things that Amazon has done. So we could have servers all over the continent, which are secured with the usual pipes and infrastructure that would still connect to where people are right now. And I believe that even with, you mentioned 5G, I think it was Robert that mentioned 5G earlier on. 5G is coming, and it can help us to actually leapfrog a lot of that cable element of bringing that infrastructure to the people. But then there is also the cost of those servers. I mean, some of them go into the millions of pounds. So one would have to initially draw out, or I was going to say, architect and design that landscape, look at the scale of how many people are going to be on it potentially. And if we're looking at that, we're also going to look at the data, the traffic, that's going to flow into it, how the data will be stored, who owns the data, what we need to use the data for, maybe to help in enriching the data, using that data to help other people to live a life within those communities that would enable them to reach each other very quickly and to have the right information to make the right decisions based on different elements. With data, analyze data, you can actually do quite a lot. You can predict a lot of behaviors and then act responsibly before certain things happen because of certain situations and models that you've built into your data analysis. So we need to think about all of that. So it's not just putting the infrastructure in, what we're going to use that data for that is being collected and how we're going to use that to help, and also the cost of bringing that to the people. So it's a lot of things to look at, and it's exciting to think about having that kind of thing within the African space, and the potential that has globally. It's huge. I see it as an untapped market, and there's a lot of young people in Africa who are not empowered, and this could be a means of releasing them into becoming empowered by a new potential coming to the market. Yeah.
So that's actually a very important point that you make about the youth market, because it's predicted by 2050 that the continent is going to habit 50% of the world's youth under 25. So that is a huge number. And we do need to be thinking about viable careers. And tech is a definite industry where, number one, there is growth, but two, the playing field is leveled. So when we're talking about the millions in terms of infrastructure, we're really only talking about venture capitalists. So, and we have fantastic venture capitalists on the continent as well. Just in terms of somebody that I follow quite closely in South Africa, Vusi Tambieko, who sold his venture capital company to a US firm and is still in the venture capital space. Now, it's not only that you're in the venture capital space, but then the tech industry are going to be drawn towards a certain sector as well, so that we start to look at the people who are the most powerful within their fields. And it's about amalgamating that talent into one space and identifying the various countries where we would run those infrastructures from. So this is really the kind of conversation that I'm talking about now. So from an IT perspective, when we're talking about building out, this is really where we are looking to go. And just to give an example of what set China free, because if we look back 30 years ago, nobody would have imagined that China would be where they are today. But the economists told us exactly where China was leading. But it was based on patterns of infrastructure that they were laying down. And they had a great foresight in going to the continent of Africa. But they made that decision and Africans didn't. So I suppose the conversation we're having this evening about delivering the digital economy to Africa is all about Africans making decisions as service providers to serve the diaspora as consumers. So what problems need to be solved digitally? So even if we think about COVID-19 right now, in terms of education and even in terms of these Zoom and live broadcasts, we're seeing a proliferation of them now. And I might get a guest for a short window because they're jumping onto another broadcast. So what type of problems do we need to solve for the diaspora on the continent with digital solutions? Please.
Sorry, yeah, I just like to give you an insight into my trip recently to Uganda. I was part of a delegation of an organisation called Black Sox, who partnered with a very dynamic on-the-ground team in Uganda called the Kafiro Foundation. And the work we're doing on the ground with the young people in business startups, especially around tech design and this kind of stuff, was actually phenomenal to see actually on the ground and how it operates. Now, you know, I had the pleasure of meeting some extremely key people whilst out there and attending quite a few of the key events which was put on. And a lot of key individuals were there at these events. One of the events I remember, it was called EduTech, and it was about education using technology. And it was mentioned about the amount of young people who are available. So Africa as a massive resource of just human labor, human resources in regards to that labor. But one key thing was there was a minister of IT, if I'm correct, there. And he said, look, the infrastructure, the businesses are being built from the ground up. You know, the whole of the East African region is very, very tech orientated, and they're using technology to solve a wide range of problems. I mean, the fourth largest app, if I'm correct, in the country at the time was by a young Ugandan man, and solved the problem around the boda bikes, which are the main key transport out there, and creating a safe way of using them. But this app, being the fourth largest in the country, allowed him to then start working with others and solve a lot of other problems, because he now had the reach across the country, not just in Uganda, but now working into that whole region. And the minister said, look, from a governmental level, all we can do really is to enable that the infrastructure exists in the country for these tech companies to be able to then develop the tools necessary in order for them to work properly. So from a governmental level, it was a case of how do we create the infrastructure ready to make sure that the 5G or the infrastructure is available for internet to be in the places where people are able to use it. Yeah. But then I spoke with, you know, because I'd done a series of interviews, the cameras were rolling while we was out there, and I'd done an interview with a couple of guys who were doing cryptocurrency and using blockchain technology for various different to solve various different issues in the country. And they was mentioning technologies which are coming out where you don't have to use the internet as the internet is now. There are new technologies coming about where you do not have to have the internet in such places. So this is, you know, something we explored a little bit further in the interviews. So, you know, our job is, I think, twofold. One, for us to develop the businesses and the infrastructures business-wise for people to be able to utilize, but also for us to get the governments to invest in the infrastructures, to invest in the coding, so you've got your own security. And I think the biggest problem of the UK at the moment, and the Chinese firm, I'm not going to try and pronounce them, the problem was the security. You know, what security are they going to be able to use? What are the security protocols? And, you know, as was mentioned, these are huge costs. And I think these huge costs have to be picked up by, to some degree, government, who have to have, you know, some kind of responsibility in the protocols which are used, and also that these protocols are shared, because we can talk about, you know, an African diaspora utopian cage, but the protocols and the languages have to be the same across the board. But I definitely feel that the government have to be involved in this kind of dialogue, and also be prepared to create the infrastructures and allow the different countries to be able to talk and have this vision of an African digital utopia, as to speak. And I know in East Africa a lot is moving in that direction. So me, you know, as a media company, a digital media company, our job is to just be able to plug in to that and work with those key people on the ground who have access to the people higher up to get those conversations started.
Absolutely. So did anybody else want to touch on that before we moved into the next question?
Yeah, I'd like to just add the point that in modern day telecommunications, which remains the backbone of all the tech that we're talking about. You still have, there used to be a 7-layer model. You still have a similar model. It's a bit fuzzy now, but you still have the storage, which is what Yemi was talking about in terms of the data centers and the storage and the place where the processing takes place. Then you have the transmission, and then you have the users, and the interface that go between the two. But the reality of the matter is that if you look at the Chinese, if you look at the UK, if you look at America, well, America not so much, but certainly here in the UK, as was just touched upon, the reality of the matter is the core infrastructure, which brings the connectivity from the storage, whether it's in the cloud or in a data center somewhere, which is what the cloud is really, to the user, was built by government money. Because the real cost, and that's why in the UK, no matter what anybody else tells you, British Telecom continues to dominate with their monopoly. The real cost is getting it to the user. Doesn't matter what you have, what the Amazons of this world have in the world. The bottom line is, if you can't get that to the user, you're in trouble. That's why you're seeing companies like Vodafone really step up now, because wireless technology removes the very expensive need to dig up the ground, lay cables, and get it done. Yeah, and we need to realize something which has really been bugging me over the last few weeks in the Black community. We have to realize that we actually have Black people who have spent 30 plus years working as transmission technologists and experts in the field. We understand digital transmission, and we're not guessing, and we do understand it. So when we're talking about stuff like 5G and we're talking about opening up Africa, if we want to open up Africa, we better be prepared to embrace wireless technology. Africa is so vast, it is so massive, that the only way that you can really make the strides that you need to make. And for me, it's not surprising why China has made the strides they've made in wireless technology, because in order to span their country, in order to give them the connectivity they need, they've embraced in wireless technology and in satellite technology. If you can't link the storage to the people, it doesn't matter what you got.
Excellent point. So just to touch on the economics, because we know that from a governmental perspective, those budgets aren't going to be there. But this is where we have to be creative, because it's not going to work for us if we're going into markets where we're purely looking to be competitive. We've got to be creative. So at this stage, this is where we start to look to vehicles like sovereign wealth funds, because a sovereign wealth fund works for the government and is invested in as savings from any traditional investor, in the same way that bonds would, which might not have any feasible outlet. But now when you're looking at infrastructures such as telecommunications, which is literally reaching the clients, at least what we do know is that you've got a subscription base, which is substantial, that can actually recoup the investment from. And not only that, but once you've got the infrastructure there, you can deliver licenses to any telecommunications carrier for a decade that wishes to use those. So there's a million ways to actually recoup back on the investment. But we do have to start being very creative, as opposed to being in that red ocean space in terms of being competitive. So what I would like to ask is, when we see entities like WeChat, and when we talk about China, it's very easy for them to make decisions because it is a totalitarian police state. Like George Bush said, it would be nice if this was a dictatorship and I were a dictator, because you can pretty much do what you like. There is no legislation. There is no parliamentary question time. You just do what you like. So unfortunately, where our governments are so malleable based on the economics, because he who pays the piper calls the tune, what are the opportunities for commercial enterprise to touch the people directly? Now, I know I had this conversation with you, Yemi, and I had it with Daryl, who's not with us yet, about the coin, because traditionally, when a government doesn't serve the people and the enterprise, they're creating a massive opportunity for private entities to come in and serve them directly, and thereby circumventing the government. And we know in the digital space, there are a lot of things that don't require licenses anymore because the people can actually access them directly. So that question is for anybody who cares to chime in.
Well, before we go on, you began your question talking about the fact that governments may not have the money, and I would say creative governments find a way around that. But
Absolutely.
one of the very interesting things that I heard about quite recently was a power plant in the US, and everything is privatized in the US. So this private power plant emptied out one of their buildings, built a crypto server farm, and they're now using the power from their power station, which is massive and still serves the rest. They're now using that to drive the power of the server farm and reap bitcoins. And it's turned out that the income they got from bitcoins now is more profitable than what they get from the supplying of power to the region that they supply power to. So if you superimpose that sort of thinking into Africa, married up with a smart thinking entrepreneur, you can go down to Africa, find one of our mega rivers that's got a hydroelectric dam strapped onto it. So you got more or less free energy because it's hydroelectric. Once the investment for that's done, stick a server farm on it and start reaping bitcoins forever. So it's about imaginative thinking. It's about thinking beyond who's going to give it. Let's make the money. And right now, crypto can make money. So let's do that.
Absolutely. And we do have the coin that actually serves us. Hopefully, Daryl will be joining us very soon to talk about what the capabilities of the coin are. Is actually on all of the exchanges at the moment. So we've got a vehicle that can literally connect the diaspora. And when we're thinking about a blue ocean space now, where there is no competition, you think about where traditionally we've been exploited by Western Union, where you would have a premium to send money to the Caribbean or Africa, where you wouldn't necessarily to Germany, the United States, France. So we have the ability to circumvent all of that now with a crypto wallet. So when we start thinking about the possibilities of empowering ourselves, now we start to think in a very sovereign way. And based on those blockchains, any of the applications that we're talking about hosting, we can host securely on blockchain. So we are talking about massive infrastructures, but it'd be very short-term thinking to talk about millions when we're actually delivering to over 1 billion people as a potential marketplace. Now, if you think about even as a nominal subscription to any of those services, you're talking about exponentially growing the GDPs of many African nations just based on taxation alone from a digital economy. So let's keep it creative. We haven't been joined tonight by the Prime Minister yet, and I did want to ask how we would work with the diaspora region in terms of our businesses being championed, because now as a diaspora region, they're having the diplomatic conversation on our behalf as enterprise with the other 5 regions of the diaspora in terms of being the 6th region. So we'll wait for Dr. Louis George's Tin to come in to ask that question. How do our businesses collaborate, even at a micro level like this, to be able to share each other's data, applications, to take advantage of those consumers in the marketplace that are there now? And again, this question is to any of the panel that have any ideas around this.
I would touching kind of what Paul mentioned earlier on. I think the key thing, definitely within our community, is education. You know,
Yes.
Tony Blair's education. We're very uneducated, well, Facebook would have you believe otherwise, in regards to understanding what is termed as the fourth industrial revolution and what is coming about. There's an element of fear in regards to, and maybe it's because we're not really controlling the infrastructure. It's like fire, depends who wields it. But yet at the same time, these things are going to exist whether we like it or not. And I think the first thing is to start beginning to educate our people, because the fourth industrial revolution, and the reason I took an interest into this, because I realized that as a community, who's going to be left behind in the world? You know, as the world is progressing forward digitally, you know, some people are talking about giving up the tractor to get onto a horse and plow for some strange reason. And you know, we have to be able to look forward and have a workforce who understands this. And even now, you know, with this lockdown, people have had to find very creative ways to bring their business online. You know, the first point is just to keep the business going. The second point is how do I now monetize this? You know, going in that direction. And I think people are being forced in that direction. But the education part, I don't really think is there. So people are not really understanding how this technology can be used and utilized throughout their businesses, and then how those collaborations can then exist, you know, digitally. So, for example, I have a digital media company. We, you know, a lot of our grassroots, you know, low-hanging fruit stuff to be able to shoot has been events. Well, me and Paul are yet to have a conversation of how do we collaborate our video production services with his database of people that he already has, who are already creating the events. How we can then utilize Paul to monetize and create interesting ways to monetize these events and bring them digitally, globally, so that we're all able to, you know, access and eat food from a digital table through these collaborations. But if people don't quite understand 5G, you know, and 5G is a classic at the moment, people really need to understand this technology. You know, there are some people who are saying it's bad for you, some people it's good for you. It doesn't matter. The point is it's going to exist. You know, all the major companies that are talking about launching 5G technologies and so on and so forth. And a lot of the way that, you know, smartwear, clothing, and all these different things which are happening are going to be tapping into this technology. Now, when we mentioned Africa and the big vast distances that they have, you know, people are saying, well, you know, these drones are coming out at night and I'm seeing these drones. But drone technology is used massively across Africa. You know, these hard to reach places, you know, to be able to deliver goods and everything. Why are you creating you know, spending billions on these infrastructure of road projects, which, you know, may be necessary in the future, where now you could utilize drones to get from here to there. But you need, you know, the satellite systems, you need the various infrastructure. So I think the key part is educating people through, you know, digital means to understand this technology so they can be best prepared to be able to utilize it and accept the way that businesses are starting to function and be able to utilize them. Otherwise, we've got a whole client base of people who are not going to tap into these technologies which people may decide to develop because they just have a fear or lack of understanding of how they work. So I think education is definitely key, especially with a younger generation who are growing up into these technologies, and their only information they're getting is how to dance on TikTok, as opposed to how do they code and program and create their own TikToks. And this is where, you know, the coders who are coding then become the educators of coding to others. And I think that is very, very key. Education, very, very, very key.
I want to add in that in addition to education is the systems. So we're talking about all these smaller entities. How do they come together, collaborate, and use what they've got to improve other communities? Now, I mean, in the area that I work in, I work a lot on systems and controls within those systems and how to actually leverage advanced technology like AI, artificial intelligence, using data to then manage those systems and do a lot of predictive analysis to determine what the possible outcome is if you put certain events into the model. And I see that a lot of smaller companies don't actually leverage that. Now, it's a bit like having a what if analysis. So we see those charts on TV, about the COVID and what is projected to happen. But have we ever thought, even as Africans, that what if there was a drought this year? How would that affect the whole community rather than my own balance sheet and my own profit and loss? But looking at the effects of certain events using data and systems and also the controls to be able to use that to manage the expectation of what the possible outcome of events are. And there's a lot of this all around. So it could be I work in finance, and I can tell you that even from day one, when it was projected that it's possible for COVID to come in, we'd already put things in place way beyond, before it actually came into let's do lockdowns. And lockdown was just, it didn't really affect what we were doing. And even in my business, I moved to online training delivery in 2005 when I saw that the platform was changing. But there's still a lot of things. Robert mentioned drones. There's a lot of stuff you could do with drones. Roads are bad in Africa. In Nigeria, I went to Nigeria in February. The roads are really bad, and there's a lot of things that could be done, even using technology, and would help people to move around, help smaller businesses to grow. But people are not thinking. They're not, the mindset has to change. The way people are thinking is still boxed in a certain way. But once they're exposed and they have the right education and put the proper systems in place, I believe that there's a lot of potential in Africa, and I see like a untapped field, So, but yeah.
Thank you, Yemi. And I envisage a great conversation between you and Daryl, especially around banking. So I'd like to introduce Daryl Speaks, a brother with Sable Ascent Coin. Just introduce yourself, Daryl, and tell us a little bit about the coin and where you are so far in terms of development, pre-launch, and what the capabilities of the coin are. You got one mute, Daryl. You're on mute.
Okay. All right. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Fantastic.
All right. Awesome. Well, thanks again, guys. I appreciate you, Dean, for orchestrating such an amazing panel of brilliant minds. And that's what's needed. And unfortunately, in this troubling time that we're having right now, all we can do is communicate to the best of our ability and put our minds together in the digital world to connect to find solutions. My name is Daryl Speaks. I am the CEO and founder of Sable Ascent Coin Corporation. The corporation was actually started October 17th, 2017. And it is a system that actually was designed based on the problems that we presently faced in our global Black economies. Myself, I'm a world traveler, father of 3. Son just went to the Navy. I'm a daughter, and I have a fiance here in Miami Beach, Florida. And I've been here working very diligently in the entertainment lifestyle space. And I noticed as I catered to my people in that space for over 11 years, and being very savvy in technology, I understood that our struggles are bigger than just entertainment. And I realized that what we needed after watching the programming of the Black Wall Street literally almost 4 years ago is that our economy is missing a currency. And I came to this understanding that and after researching that we needed our own currency, is because of the lack of access to capital that is presently available, the lack of infrastructure, banking infrastructure, the lack of transactions within our business model, within our businesses, supplying to our entrepreneurs. I heard one gentleman talk about infrastructure, technology. Just basically every industry has an issue with access to capital. But in today's economy, to go out and to create some paper and to open up a mint to create money is not very sustainable, or maybe not even legal. So I sought after ways to execute a strategy of creating such a system, and that's when blockchain technology came into play. Well, my background is actually also not just in the entertainment world, but also in civil rights. At the very young age of 35, after graduating University State College participation, I happened to be in the NAACP as a housing and voting. That was my passion, getting people registered. And after talking with many people and watching and defending people in all areas of that organization, I was assigned as president, and I was the youngest president in the state of Florida for 2 years at the age of 35. So I saw the struggles, and I know that's not a global struggle, but it's the struggles of our people just consistently having the foot on our necks, and that actually was one of the things that keeps me going, is to understand that, you know, if somebody doesn't build a system that's trusted, immutable, uncorruptible, transparent in the banking world, but the key is it has to be dedicated and developed for our community. That's the key. Developed. You can't build a system if you weren't born in our community, or you haven't lived in our shoes, right? So we built a system that's basically has mass adoption across all 6 continents and many countries. I can't name them all. We have people present. With the help of great minds like Dean and some of the other great minds in Jamaica, here in the U.S., Haiti, Jamaica, even down in Australia, we have a team down there. It is now time to release the currency. The currency's model is based on the Ethereum platform, which we have a lot of speculations about the network. But one thing we do know is that the currency market is here to stay. It is a very secure system that's based on Firebase, which is the Google Cloud system. We have an API for our own node system, but you need the capital again to do that. Unfortunately, we have until recently have received no capital. I've totally bootstrapped the entire company myself, which is actually not a struggle, because again, I do have a business that pays for my lifestyle. I assign that to my fiance since I started the company. So I've been building this company every day for the past 3 years, and now we are there. I was just on a conference call with one of the leading coin exchanges, LA Token, which is number 18 on CoinMarketCap. They are ready to list us next month. And we had another call with the number 2 on CoinMarketCap.com, which is FAT BTC. If you go to CoinMarketCap, they're number 2 in the world, and they want to list us as well. So and there are another 6 on that same top 25 coin exchanges that are waiting for us to list. So the currency is real, the ecosystem is real. We have business relationships again in every continent, in many countries. I spoke at the UN. I spoke to the National Black Chamber. I was just on and on and on. Some of the largest networks are ready for us to own our own currency. So now what are we going to do with it? Well, it's pegged to all of our assets, and my strategy of delivery is exactly what you gentlemen are talking about here today. It's a each one teach one strategy, one band, one sound that comes from our branding and marketing department to educate, train, and teach on not just cryptocurrencies and blockchain technologies, but also we talked about that AI, STEAM. We need to be teaching financial literacy. We need to be teaching the new gig economy. Who's teaching that, right? It's not just going out and laying bricks. It's about doing assignable tasks over the internet. It's about understanding marketing, understanding sales, understanding leadership skills. These are the skills, hard and soft, that need to be developed across many continents, and more importantly, across many languages. So the currency will be pegged to all assets, including infrastructure, phone technologies. I've been actually asked by Mora to participate in their program. Excuse me, that's that phone company in, I think it's from Rwanda. But also we're looking at building computers for dissemination in schools, building hospitals, building roads, and all of these things. And so yes, all of these things we will be participating in. And our node systems, we're excited to partner with the partnerships in our in different government organizations, NGOs, that are all looking to participate in building infrastructure, and more importantly, creating a new industrial age. So the continent, for us, we need to be building everything that we consume. I repeat, we need to be building everything that we consume, from hats and shirts to these $100 Nike shoes, and allowing for our Black entrepreneurs and our Black brilliant minds to get into business, to expand our economy. So this is happening, guys. I'm excited to be here. I'd love to answer any questions, and thank you, Dean, again, man, for having me on the call.
Absolutely, you're welcome. Thank you for being on the panel. So even down to the infrastructure question we were asking earlier about the cloud, as you mentioned, Google Cloud. So there's a unique opportunity for us to build these things out. And another thing that the coin does, where there's a capability, is to create liquidity in releasing from assets, gold, yes, diamonds, all of the assets that we have. We can create liquidity through the coin to create these infrastructures. So when we think very creatively, and we're thinking as panels, because the masterminds are really what generate this. The problem is we work in so many silos that it doesn't benefit us. When, like you, Yemi, who've been working in your industry, and you, Paul, for maybe 30 years. Now, you have experience not only in terms of architecture and delivery, but also in terms of colleagues to deliver the actual work out as a project, to create scalable milestones. So now it's a case of getting into a room and deploying these architectures. So Yemi, if you could, just because Daryl wasn't with us, if you could tell us a little bit about the banking cloud that you're working on now. We don't need to know about the client, but just an overall.
Yeah, what I'm actually doing is I've got a team of people in a bank, one of the largest banks in the UK, and we're rolling out enterprise applications, mainly for back office. And this is mainly for all the financial applications and for the systems internally, and it's a global implementation. So it's not just looking at the finance activities at the back end, like your accounts payable, receivables. We're also looking at extracting data and analyzing that data in the middle of transactions, and also using AI to fish out things like risks. There's risks involved in certain transactions, looking at things that you would normally pick up by auditors maybe 1 year after, but doing that in real time. So using data that you've collected in the past, and looking at events that are currently happening to predict future outcomes of potential transactions in real time. So, and that's done globally. So it's an exciting project. It's not on blockchain, but we're using the cloud. Blockchain is one of the things that we are looking at for some of those transaction elements. We may be integrating to blockchain maybe next year, but predominantly we're using AI and robotics within transactions to automate a lot of the predicted outcomes and the flowing transactions. So we're using cloud as the main delivery platform, but the applications themselves sit on the cloud. Yeah, and we have a lot of code in the background that does lots of fancy stuff. Yeah.
We know that we have the expertise, and this expertise is international. The one thing that brings this expertise together is always the money. And this is where we need to be having these conversations with the venture capitalists. Now, we always talk about a problem in terms of liquidity, and we always talk about the lack of liquidity that governments have, but it's also an opportunity for governments to start thinking in a much more entrepreneurial way in terms of future-proofing their nations and creating sovereign wealth funds. Now, even the diaspora region as a council can create a sovereign wealth fund, and each of the countries where delivery takes place for the technology to be installed would benefit from that economy. So these masterminds that we're having, even in terms of conversations like this and the opportunities that they throw up, really start to change the dynamics of watching 54 countries travel to China, or 54 countries travel to Russia, or 55 countries come over here to Blighty, who is bankrupt and broke. When we're talking about the Commonwealth, there was no wealth to be gained by the African nations coming to England. It was all about what England could gain. So if you look at Ghana, the trade tariffs were let down. So there's no more import tariffs from Ghana to the UK or vice versa. This is a massive opportunity when you're looking at the countries within West Africa in terms of manufacturing, being able to deliver via Ghana to the United Kingdom, for instance. We've got to be a lot more creative about the opportunities that we're creating. But listening to Daryl talk about the coin and what it delivers us in terms of number one, being a Pan-African in its ethos, and two, serving a potential diaspora population of 1.5 billion. Tell us about the API code that any website could use to take payments or subscriptions or anything of that nature, Daryl. Sorry, you're muted.
Again, yeah. Okay, yeah, 1 second. Okay, all right. Thanks, Dean. So what happens is the first product that will be released will be the downloadable wallet system that'll be available on iOS and Google. We have ambassadors and marketing teams in all of the continents today. They're already there. We do marketing calls on Tuesdays and Thursdays. We have a complete delivery strategy for that. So the second product we'll be releasing once we start uploading, businesses are already starting to come onto the website and register themselves for free. In order for us to validate that a business is Black-owned, we use, I'm glad Yemi is on top of it. We do use an AI, and we actually have a call center in Jamaica that evaluates all businesses' social media and their engagement. So the API itself was basically be a free download, which will be installed as a payment gateway, okay? That payment gateway has liquidity through a Visa MasterCard rail. That Visa MasterCard rail through the SWIFT system has access to 170 countries, okay? And so it basically means that all of the 54 African countries will all be linked with this API instantly once it's released. All they have to do is register themselves. We'll have customer service in Jamaica that'll be able to help them to integrate. If not, we'll have tech support that will help them integrate the API into their websites. If not, they'll have every person, I repeat, every person with a governmental ID of some form or fashion will have the ability to have a digital debit card system. For an additional charge, they can get a physical debit card, but for no cost, they can get a digital debit card, which can load any currency through the Visa MasterCard rails onto the debit card, and then it gets transacted into SAC1 stablecoin. So to answer your question, Dean, yes, the API is very functioning. It'll be integrated for free by Sable Ascent and full assistance. If they already have the technology experience, it'll be a simple download, and then they'll at the bottom of their page or wherever they have their payment gateway, the gate will be installed. We have literally tens of thousands of businesses already waiting. I was asked to sit on the president board of the National Black Chamber, which has 1.5 million businesses, so they're waiting on the API. WeBuyBlack.com is waiting on the API. I can't go down all the businesses that are waiting on the API to integrate into their business for, like you said, subscriptions. You'll be able to have invoicing. You'll be able to do payroll, and a whole laundry list of other services.
So Darren,
the equivalent of We Buy Black here, my brother Daniel Lister. So I'll introduce you. And again, With Paul, you've got aggregated black businesses. But Paul, sorry, I interrupted you.
Yeah, no, Daryl, I'm very, very interested in what I was just hearing you say, because the next phase of what I'm doing for my company is to push a duplicate site of Just Tickets into the US. And here in the UK, probably the biggest issue I have, if there is one issue, is about the banking system, is about those APIs that manage our payments. And so my ears are pricked up and immediately wanting to get onto that train, because we continue to consume stuff that we don't produce. I'm gonna steal that statement from you.
Hey, we know you. We sharing it, brother. It's nothing new. We sharing it. At the end of the day, if you guys really sit back and think about it humbly, if we consume, if we produce everything we consume, let's be real, guys. Forget about not us, our wives and girlfriends. Just that, right? We'd be okay. Like the beauty industry alone, much less the travel and the food. We'd be in good shape. We'd be in great shape.
Yeah, I think it's very, very important for the people who are listening in today to understand how this works. I was having a dialogue with a brother today online about why I am so focused on black business. His question very specifically was, do I consider a person's hue as an important factor in doing business with them? And my response was yes, because if I build a black business, I am more certain that the investment from the profits of that business are going to go back into the black community than if I spend my money with someone else. No, I'm not 100% sure, but I'm more sure that if I spend my money with a black person, it's going to go back into our community. And then it goes all through all the little social problems that we're having, particularly for those of us who live in the diaspora, having to reach out for. We should start to be able to fund ourselves. And I'm just a strong advocate for using anything that looks any shape that's going to come back into the black community. My websites, I move them off the so-called big names and move them to a brother's site. And I'm going to give him a shout out, netnerd.com, owned by a brother, UK brother. That's where my site is now hosted, and it's perfect first-class service. So we need to start to support these businesses so that they can invest into the community and develop more consumables for us to consume.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. And the statistics actually 7 out of 10 will have agreed in the black community that they will invest in purchases in a black business if they even knew where they are. So if we have a global platform of not just our currency, that's a whole nother world. 9 out of 10 black people that I talk to across many countries have already said, Daryl, if we had our own currency, we're in. It's not even a thought. It's like, well, first of all, how is that even possible? That's what they ask the first question. Then they say, well, if it is possible, what do I got to do to get involved? Because they understand if we have our own supply of producing products, we have our own products, and more important, we have our own currency. Now we truly and deeply own our own ecosystem. Now we can employ our own people and feed ourselves rather than asking for someone to give us something.
Absolutely, and the key is in creating the ecosystem. So when we have entertainment platforms, and this is the part of the mastermind, we've got entertainment platforms, we've got event booking, we've got the coin, we've got a number of partners that we can't even get on here just because of the logistics of bringing people together. Even in terms of getting U5 together, unfortunately, we lost the Prime Minister because he had a meeting at a particular time, and because we missed that window, we've missed him. We will get word to him and we'll deliver the show to him and get his thoughts on this afterwards, because it's very important that we understand how we're going to work with the diaspora region based on the fact that they are our ambassador to the African Union. And they're actually our entry point to all of those 54 countries speaking on our behalf. Our role is to monetize them so that they've got the kind of force to be speaking on our behalf. But Robert, if you tell us a little bit about HMP TV as a subscription platform, and I really because just to let Daryl know, I've been talking to you about taking the API code on the website in terms of taking the subscription payments. So just about the value of us paying for a platform in the same way that we do for Netflix, but where we have an agenda to actually educate, entertain, and inform our own people from our perspective.
Yeah, I mean, it's great to hear what Daryl had to say about and hear from the horse's mouth, as to speak, in regards to the coin and its implementation. My driving force has been media because, you know, as an activist for 25 years, teaching Black history in various places, and realizing that the impact was minimal. You know, standing up in a room of 20 to 100 people is a very, very limited amount of impact you're really having. But that was the modus operandi before the internet. As we moved into where we are today, you know, my interest in media was to be able to reach a vast amount of people, and seeing that this, as I said, the infrastructure was already there. Understanding that there was content creators, you know, wonderful, great content creators who wanted to really create African-inspired or Black content, but not being able to monetize that. So therefore, that talent was lost to ITV, BBC, and all these various companies, because at the end of the day, people have bills to pay, and, you know, they take their skill set to wherever they're going to be paid. So for the past 4 to 5 years now, you know, the key thing was to be able to amass the content. So we've been shooting for 4.5 years, not only here in the UK, but anywhere, you know, any country that I go to, I go fully equipped with the cameras. I connect with the shooting team on the ground, and we develop content there. So we've developed content in Jamaica, we've developed content in Cuba, Uganda, Gambia, and Kenya of late. From, you know, politics, you know, I will see anything and we can turn that into content. So we have got the content, but the main thing was to be able to have a reach. And with media, you know, if you look at things like Twitter, Instagram, you know, Twitter was just tweeting, it was just text-based, but they've all moved to video, or if they had video, they've expanded their video because they now realize that you know, video is the most powerful driving force. If a picture paints 1,000 words, then a video paints 1,000,000, and you can reach far more people. Now, I always say to people, the media is a simple tool. It's the medium between one person or one entity and another. So we fit in as the media. We plug into everyone everywhere. You know, the media has allowed us to get into places where, you know, I possibly would have not been able to get into, just me, one per se, with, you know, a sweet talking tongue. You know, the minute we produce the cameras and say, look, this is what we can do, and this is how we can provide reach for you, the conversation then changes. And now that the platform is 99% ready to launch, and, you know, people are seeing that by our YouTube content, are starting to see the quality of the content and the type of stuff that we've been creating across 10 genres at the moment, and extra genres to come in our 5-phase program. And the great thing about this 5-phase program, our final phase was a coin, you know, because we knew that once we've got the medium and we're reaching people globally, you know, I'd say to people, look, we have full intent to be just like the BBC. We're going to be global like the BBC. Anyone who said to me that's not possible, I said, well, you just don't need to be on my timeline no more. Our conversation is now dead. You know, you can't tell me what's possible and what's not possible. The thing is, can you create the content which has interest? Because people will subscribe to Netflix, they will subscribe to Amazon, they will subscribe to Hulu, they will subscribe to all these things. And the reason people started subscribing to all these different internet platforms, they didn't want to pay the 25 to 30 pound fee to Sky anymore, which is now becoming a redundant model anyway. So, but the problem with that is I can watch one program which is exclusive to one platform, one program which is exclusive to another. Now that there's 10 different shows I want on 10 different platforms, I'm now paying £70 subscription. We were saying, well, look, our first thing was to create a model of content which reaches various different demographics. So we've gone from business. So if you're business orientated, we've got business shows. business is business globally, no matter where you are. So whether I listen to Dr. Boyce Watkins out of the United States, or I listen to Asari St. Hill inside here in the UK, their business acumen is business acumen. So we have shows which not only just show black business exchanging hands at the various events that we've covered, we make it key to speak to the businesses there, but also to create business shows which teach business acumen from those who their job is to scale businesses. So instead of that one person reaching one person, now they're able to reach thousands of people globally, and then we figure out plans of how they monetize that through the platform. Same with our entertainment. We're working with a comedian at the moment who has allowed us to produce a year's worth of content of comedy and gave us access into the comedy world. Now, some comedians were like, well, our material's too small to go out there. Some comedians who could think off their feet said, well, this is perfect. And we said, look, instead of being able to run an event where you can reach a group of people, because when we look at the American comedian circuit, the most biggest comedians out there got out there through Saturday Night Live or various different TV shows which what took them global. And we're saying to the same UK people over here, look, we now have the opportunity to do the same thing. Just like Daryl, myself, I bootstrapped this from my own financial, from my own personal pocket over the past 5 years. And the pleasure of being able to see what this is going to be able to deliver, and also know that I've got so much, over the past 5 years, the partners that I've been able to connect with who have massive databases. And our job was just simply, you've got a massive database. How do we access your database? How do we create shows which promote that which you're doing and gives us access to your database, and then put them out there to a much larger global audience? I've got a team of young men in Uganda right now who are ready to shoot, and create content out there. Therefore, we have not only HMP TV UK, we have HMP TV Uganda. So we're able to create content on the ground there, share content. We're able to create programs over here, and then the word has gone out of my mind. But then have those same programs run out there, and vice versa. So the media allows us to go global. It allows us to reach people globally, because people, the reason that the social media platforms have become as big as they are is because people can just watch, they can just consume things on the go with their eyes, and because of the technology, it allows you to click a button and buy something straight away. So you can model something on Instagram, click a button and purchase that straight away, and that's being delivered to you. Well, we want to do the same thing within our platform. We've built a database, a business directory, because we want to be able to have UK businesses who, if you're already coming to watch our content, so what makes our database different from many others, we're already driving people to our platform to watch our content, whether it's our business shows, whether it's to watch Raheem Devon in concert, whether it's to watch our holistic health shows talking about the different foods which grow in Jamaica out the land, and farming shows and that kind of stuff, teaching people to go back to the ground. That allows us to tap into the producers who are creating these products or taking the food, and you've got now a wide place to distribute to through the visual medium. So the visual medium plugs into everything which everybody does. And the whole point of us creating a subscription-based platform was so that, one, we can control our own finances, because people, I had a conversation with someone yesterday, 2 days ago, and they was picking my brain because they wanted to create a YouTube platform. And I said, look, have you done any research into how YouTube pays and how much viewership you have to get those views on board? Now, if you've got your children opening toys, that's a great market. You could make money in that market. Or if your child's a gamer, then you've got the potential of them, tapping into that market. But if you're a black gamer, is that market the same as a white gamer? And that, I said to my son, because he's got an interest, I said, well, how many black gamers are you following? And he said, well, none. I only know a few. And I said, well, is that gaming going? Are you going to blow up based on that, that's something you really need to think about. But when you've got your own infrastructure, because we created our own gaming show, what me and my son created, and I said, look, I had to explain to him, look, we've got a whole diaspora, as Dean said, 1.5 billion globally, who we can tap into to watch these gaming shows, where they see people who look like them doing the gaming. We've got quiz shows, which we're creating not only for young people, but we're now looking at adult shows. And in creating our own infrastructure, in creating our own subscription base, we said, look, it's very, very simple. Give us 10,000 subscribers. The 10,000 subscribers in video terms is a minimal, a very small number. I said, just give us 10,000 subscribers at $2.99 a month. That's 30,000 UK pounds a month. That is just off the subscription. All the other ways of monetizing the shows, which we've already built into our model, but that's just subscription. That gives you, money to employ a team of people who are shooting not just here in the UK, but could be shooting in Uganda, shooting in Kenya, shooting in the USA, shooting in Jamaica. So, and that's just 10,000. Now scale it up to 20,000, 50,000, 100,000. The type of content you create, you're able to then create your dramas. We already tapped into, we cover a lot of the premieres, the Nollywood premieres, which take place here in the UK. So we already tapped into the fourth biggest film industry on the planet, which simply just needs more investment to bring it up to where it is. So, our model, which we're looking to roll out, is a very, very simple model, but it allows us to create serious amounts of finance in a very short period just through subscription. And you'll see the growth, over our phase 1, phase 2, you will see the growth and development, because as Paul said, that money goes back into our community. It goes back into creating our own studios. It goes back into creating our own servers. It goes back into us being able to say, look, we want to be able to now sponsor Just Tickets, or advertise on Just Tickets and be a major sponsor. It allows us, for a lot of the events what take place, and you've got these banquets, we're able to say, look, we want to buy a table, and we want to take young people from that project and allow them to come and sit there, because one, it helps promote us as a platform, and it allows us to then give back into our community. It allows us, many people keep saying, if everyone put £1 in, we'd have £1 million. I said, well, no one does it, well, because they have no idea what you're going to do with the money. You have no proof of what your background is in understanding how the money works, but we're giving you something for your subscription. You're not paying us just because we're saying give us £1. You're looking at our content. You may be a business owner and said, this value, forget all the other 9 genres you've got, just the value of £3 a month to get this business acumen, that's the value to us. So we can tap into these different demographics. So we've built a model. Our final objective was to have a coin, but why do I have to then have that objective when a coin already exists?
Exactly.
It works in the same mindset of what we're doing. We have the same ethos, we have the same drive, we have the same goals. Then I don't have to build my own coin. I've just got to plug into a coin which is already there to do the same thing what I would do anyway. And instead of us waiting 5 years to develop that coin, we can now bring that objective forward and then tap it into the people that we're working with, because we work across everywhere with everyone, and we can bring our networks to the table, and then plug them into your networks and grow what we need to do. And our education aspect of it allows us to work with the different coders and create shows with people already doing it to teach people how to code and how to understand blockchain technology. So we're just a medium, and our model is a model which allows us to generate the income to be able to plug in and build the things which our community needs.
Thank you, Robert. So I think Daryl said it very simply when he said that we need to create an alternative to every single thing that we consume. So there's massive room for cross-pollination with you and Cross Tickets, even with Just Tickets, even in terms of the comedian shows and comedians advertising those shows and being able to directly touch into those and purchase tickets via Just Tickets. Those mediums to create that money where normally we'd want to sell companies, you can generate revenue just by thinking very creatively. I want to ask this question of Yemi and Daryl, because this is really going back to infrastructure and knowing the kind of meetings and what you're reading within trade publications. What does a decentralized African digital economy look like? So let's take for granted that even in terms of Robert's business, we built our own video analytics engine, because we don't have our own video analytics engine. At the moment, we're still using Vimeo, we're still using Google's YouTube. What does a decentralized African digital economy look like? And this is to Yemi. And we could talk about banking and what that might look like in terms of our own server. Or maybe we skip past that and go right into a blue ocean space where we are building blockchains for delivery in a lot of what we're doing. Yemi.
Well, yeah, thanks. Yeah. I mean, if I was going to look at this, I would say let's go the blockchain route and leverage what's already exists and build something along that kind of architecture. And we're making it ready for the future, which is now. And then I mean we've got the coins on top of that, and we, in terms of monetizing it, then even looking at all of that structure, the coins, the blockchain platform, the way in which data can be analyzed and used effectively. Most of YouTube and all the other companies that do similar kind of things, most of their income comes from advertising, but it's more to do with targeted advertising. So there's a lot of the market in Africa is huge. I mean, we talked about a lot of reusing or creating an ecosystem which you supply to each other, coming back to the trade by barter kind of model, but then expanding that out to multiple regions within the vast continent. So if you have that model and you want to now start to look at how do you now leverage the architecture of blockchain using decentralized monetary systems, which doesn't need any other external control in terms of what the value is, but is based intrinsically on the consumption within that economy and what people can offer, then it becomes a very different ball game. And the more I think about it, the more I think about the data, the more I think about what that data can be used for in advertising, in even what companies like Amazon are doing in terms of the way in which the shopping behavior of people can vary based on different circumstances and different times, and being able to predict that and offer those products in a way that you can order something now and then get it within a few hours. And that's because of the data they already collected about shopping behaviors of a particular demographics at a particular time. The data is there, but we just need to tap into how to collect it, how to analyze it, and that decentralized platform will enable us to do that across the continent on this single platform. So that's the way I look at it. But it's huge, but it's not impossible. It's doable. I mean, China did it, and we can.
Absolutely. It's huge. And we got to look at how much employment that provides.
Yeah.
So I know that Paul is someone in our community that creates employment opportunities all the time. And even if you could speak to a little about what you do within that space of introducing young men and women from the community, but just thinking about the employment opportunities that provide on the continent. So when Daryl is talking about creating the nodes, if we even think about tech universities that are now, because we're talking about building educational infrastructures that actually deliver an African lens that has empathy for the people on the continent. tech is a great space to just move straight ahead rather than saying that we need to go through all of the development stages of the Western countries. We do have a unique opportunity to just skip swiftly ahead into a blue ocean space. What kind of roles would be provided in terms of employment for all of these infrastructures? And that question's to Paul, just because I do know you have a history of providing opportunities.
I just think it's such an incredible question because it's so easy to answer.
Beautiful.
You name the role and we're able to deliver it. Right now, when I'm working on the development of my next site, which I started about a month ago, I don't have to speak to anybody that I don't want to speak to. The skill sets for coding, for delivering any sort of website, any sort of API, any sort of app are so widespread now. And with all the current infrastructure that exists, I can get up in the morning and talk to a guy in Kenya about coding my site just as well as I can talk to a guy in Jamaica about building my website. It's really that simple. I think we have to get over not understanding that, first of all, and very importantly, we have these skill sets already.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I've always told people that when people said, people are working at the plantation, what I was actually doing working at the plantation was stealing all of their secrets of processes and how they do stuff. Only because I knew they obviously stole it from us anyway, so I was just collecting it back. And the reality is we have these skills. I meet young people who have project management skills, have application building skills. They can design games. But what we're not doing, we're not bringing them together as an umbrella and saying, look, I want you to build me this website and I'm going to pay you. Yeah. And when we start to do that and we start to understand that those skill sets are out there and we can be connected. Yeah. So we can go onto platforms like Fiverr, we can go onto platforms like LinkedIn, and we can find Black professionals anywhere in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And if one thing this COVID thing has taught us is that we no longer need to be in the same room, the same country, the same hemisphere to deliver services. So the company that I work for otherwise has increased their productivity working under this. So we have no excuse anymore. We just need to start to network a little bit better so that when I'm talking to people like Robert about what he's doing, he needs to know that I have a massive database. And if I'm going to linchpin off what Yemi was saying, the reality of the matter is the biggest commodity right now is not gold, it's data. And I try to explain to people that when you use one of my competitors' sites, who I won't mention, what you are giving them is more valuable than the money that they take from you for putting the service. It's called data. Yes. Every time one of your people book a ticket, buy a ticket on one of those platforms, you are giving them something which is more important to them than the money that they get from your ticket sale. It's called data. Yemi talked about the AI that they use to understand trends, to understand these things. This is what they want. The money you pay them for selling the ticket is irrelevant. It is data. And I can say from our experience, the data that we have has actually brought us more income than the ticket sales. Mm-hmm. Because there are a few people out there who understand how to leverage our database and are doing so very successfully. So until we start to understand where the real money is, we're always going to be chasing shadows. So we're chasing instant payments from PayPal, and we don't understand that PayPal owns part of Eventbrite. And so they share the data because that is what they're really interested in. They need to understand what shows sell the most, what type of tickets sell the most, how do they're targeting sales. That is all done based on AIs which they use to look at your data. We have the skills. Young people out there right now are coding from high school. Yep. You can go onto Udemy, you can find a zillion coding courses. And we've got young people who are bright. They're able to do these things. You know, I took a group of young people into a city firm, which actually had a representative guy who used to be one of the 100 Black men of London's mentees rather. And he grew up, he thanked us, and he brought a whole crew in there for a summer program of coding. We have these skills. I won't talk about my skills that I have. I won't talk about the skills that people like Yemi have, Robert has, you, Dean. All of the skills we're talking about: marketing, sales, project management, yeah, infrastructure. You know, there was a time when you went to British Telecom and everybody was Black. What do you think happened to us? If I started to list the telecoms companies that I've worked for, you'd probably think I'm joking. AT&T, Ericsson, Cable and Wireless, BT. I've worked for all of them at the highest levels, and I continue to work as an IT consultant. And then someone on Facebook is going to tell me, oh, but this guy on video said 5G is bad for you. I've installed radio antennas when I was a lot younger and a little bit thinner. Yeah, I've done that. I've been there. And we have lots of people just like me, brothers and sisters who have been working on the plantation, sucking up this knowledge. We know how to market things. We know how to write documents. We know how to write papers. We know how to write business cases. We know how to see projects through. We know how to build infrastructure. I looked at Yemi's board and I see the word agile, so I know exactly where he's coming from. We have all these skills already. Yes, I could see it. Yes.
As well. Yeah.
Yeah. We have all these skills. And we need to, one of the things we really need to do is stop doubting each other. Yeah. We need to stop doubting each other. We need to give the other person a chance. And I said to someone today, I said, look, if I go to Yemi and ask Yemi to do something for me and it ain't right the first time, I sit Yemi down and say, Yemi, look, that wasn't right, mate. Let's work it out. If he doesn't get it right the second time, then I'm looking for a different brother to do it. I'm not saying all Yemis are bad. I'm going to look for the next man. And until we adopt that, then we'll be able to employ our young people. Because what we'll be doing, we'll be creating businesses that are large enough to start taking people on. And when our children graduate from university, or whether they show an acumen for something, because they don't have to go to university, but if they show an acumen for something, they should have the option of a Black company as a place where they're going to look for employment. Yeah, it shouldn't be that because your name is Mohammed and they see your CV, they just chuck it out the window because Mohammed frightens them. Yemi frightens them. Yeah, it shouldn't be that. What it needs to be is that we have a situation where we are growing our companies. People like Robert's company, which is very labor intensive, that could suck up a whole mass of young people. And instead of them making content for TikTok, they should be making content for Robert. This is where what we're not doing. We're not building the businesses who are there so that they can start to employ our young people, keeping that money. I would much rather overpay a Black person in our community because, again, as I said before, I have a good idea of where they're going to spend that money. But if we're not making all the things we consume, thank you, Daryl, then we're going to be in trouble because we're always going to be paying money to spend on other people's stuff. I know Black shoemakers. Yeah. I know Black funeral parlor owners. And what I'm saying is until we start to pull all of these things together and realize that if I'm spending money with my friend Peter Broderick up in Leeds, if I'm spending money with Marcia Brown who makes shoes, if I'm spending money with my friend who sells water, something that we all drink. If we're spending money with these people, no matter how hard they try, it can't escape our community too fast. And then we're able to employ our young people, and we're not asking them for favors. We're employing them as full employees and building our companies from inside. And yeah, somebody's going to disappoint you. But guess what? White folks disappoint me every day. So I'm not holding it against you on a racial basis. I'm holding it against you on the fact you as an individual disappointed me, and I'm moving on. So when you talk about employment, the world is our oyster, especially in places like Africa. Because of connectivity, we can access young people out there, and we can pay them what in the equivalent of a month's wages.
Absolutely.
To do tasks which we couldn't get done over here, but we can change their lifestyles. Yeah. Right now, the guys down in India, that's what they're doing.
That's what they're doing.
They're no longer trying to get into the big companies. They're not trying to get into Silicon Valley anymore. They're not trying to do any of that now. All they're trying to do now is their own thing. So they set up themselves on Fiverr. They set up themselves on these single project platforms where you can apply to them to do a project and they bid for it. They set themselves up now, and they'll build whatever they want to build for you. They'll get it done very quickly. So we have a choice. We can continue to host our sites on GoDaddy. We can continue to sell our tickets on my competitor. And what will happen is the competitor will continue to grow. They will continue to employ who they want to employ, and they will continue to be charitable to the causes that they want to be charitable to. In the 3 years I've had Just Tickets, I've been able to contribute to charities that are close to my heart. Yeah, I've been able to do that. I've been able to give money and details to the 100 Black Men of London. It's a lifelong thing for me, so I don't even consider them a charity anymore. Yeah, it's just a direct debit. Yeah, I have people who come to me and say to me, Paul, I want to do an event, it's for a charity, and I waive the ticketing fee. And I can do that because it's my company. Yeah. I challenge them to go to one of my competitors and say, oh, I tell you what, I'd like to do something here. How does it work? It won't happen. So we have to continue to build diverse businesses of the things we consume. Yep. And make sure that they're available, make sure the standard is as high as we can make it. And we have to be tolerant, because I can tell you this, and I'm going to say their name. Eventbrite wasn't the Swish site you see today, day one. Yeah. They weren't like that day one. They weren't like that year one, year two, year three. It took years of iterations. Yeah. And the agile man will know what I'm talking about here. It took years of iterations for them to get to where they are. And billions of your money, of your dollars, to get them to where they are. So when a new company, Just Tickets, HMTV, whoever it is, comes along, don't hold us up beside them and say, well, you know, why can't you do this piece of magic? When you haven't invested billions into us so that we can do the same. Take your time with us. Yeah. We have the minimum viable product, right, Yemi?
110%. An investable.
That's the word we're looking for, the minimum viable product that brings us to market and delivers a sustainable service so that we can grow. And anybody who's been with Just Tickets, for example, from day one to now, will be able to see the leaps and bounds between what we had day one and what we have now. And that's just 3 years. Yeah. When I'm finished talking to Daryl, I know that we're going to be moving on to the next level. And I just want to make one final point. The reason why people like Daryl are so interesting to me is because when I went to the banks trying to get basically the most cheap and efficient method of a payment gateway, we were told no.
Yeah.
Make no mistake. They told us that they do not provide that service to sites that do what we do.
Mm-hmm.
That's obviously a lie, because you can use a bank service on Eventbrite, you can use a bank service on Ticketmaster, you can use a bank service on all of these. So I know they're lying. But the reality of the matter is, if we don't have our own, that's a closed door for me. And that's why we have to support each other. That's why we have to make sure that we're not just doing one type of business, we're doing diverse businesses. We're doing all the things that we consume. Because if we're doing that, then there's less people telling me no. What I want now is a black bank to tell me they can give me a payment gateway so I can stop talking to these banks. That's all I need now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then we're talking expansion, but we're coming to the US. And I did hear you, Daryl, when you said you do an event lifestyle thing down in Florida.
Yes, yes.
So we're on it. Yeah, I'm getting the duplicate of Just Tickets built right now as a secretary so that we can do the US dollar conversions and cream off that side of the US and down into Jamaica and the Caribbean.
Mm-hmm.
So that's phase 2. And bear in mind that Just Ticket was birthed by myself and my silent Nigerian partner because we wanted to take this to Nigeria and the Caribbean.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So we're not just thinking about the UK. The UK for us is a safe place to test it. That's how we viewed the UK, as a safe place to test the technology. We've learned the lessons, we've moved the platform on. Now I'm ready to take on the US and the Caribbean. Because really it's just, control C and copy and repaste the site. Get a name and we're up and running. That's the sort of knowledge that we have.
Yeah.
I'm not special. Let's be crystal clear. I'm not special. What I know is generally known by guys who've been in the industry for as long as I have.
And once you've got your MVP, it's a turnkey system, and it's modular and scalable. So what I will do is give all of you guys each other's details, because there are bigger masterminds that are here to be had. And in terms of us looking at the number of diverse businesses that we can put into this ecosystem. But whilst we're talking, my mind is going, and I wanted to ask Daryl a couple of questions, because when we're talking about different businesses, especially international businesses between the continent and the rest of diaspora, or any of the diaspora working with each other, tell us a little bit about the escrow facility that the coin has, so that we're actually now talking about our own central banking system to a degree, because we can duplicate the facilities that banks actually provide for us.
Yeah, absolutely. What happens is, in escrow services, it's the ability to trust one party over with another. So say I'm here in the United States and we're talking to Dean or someone else in another country, and they have a product that I want. Well, usually in the escrow world, it becomes an issue where we have to take our money and give it to a lawyer who's the escrow person, right? So in this world, we want to be able to provide a similar trust. That's all it is. It's the ability to trust that person is going to deliver the product if I put up my money. So in the digital world of digital currencies, when you send currency or currency or store of value to somebody, once they send it, and then they have it. So in the escrow world, we want to be able to provide a medium point of that the product has been delivered, and there is a tracking in AI that the product has been delivered. So once that's been done, then there's been a verification that the sender who's put his escrow put his money or his currencies in escrow has received his product. Now those funds can be released. So it becomes a win-win for everybody. It becomes a win-win for the guy in the UK who's trying to sell his product, his hat, his shirt, his goods and services, his gold, what have you, and it's a benefit for the buyer who's in another country trying to buy something.
Excellent. So in winding down, looking at how we scale out these MVPs, as I know 20 gentlemen who've been in the lab for the past 3 or 4 years working on their various deliverables. So number one, Daryl, I'm definitely going to connect you with all of those colleagues to implement the coin, which is one of our biggest initiatives right now. And to Yemi, even in the fantastic conversation we had the other day, and I said I would introduce you to colleagues who were within various infrastructures, because it is about pulling back from our brain drain. And for anybody who's watching the broadcast who actually has these technical skills, what I will do is post each other's details online so that we can actually look at the sweat equity of building up the businesses that we actually have. And I will make a forum for a conversation, more than likely on LinkedIn, that we can go into detail and bring in different industries, different expertise, so that just like Formula One would develop things for their particular industry that went on to consumer markets that were vastly exponentially more adopted than Formula One. So I'm going to endeavor to put that up tomorrow. So in closing thoughts, because we couldn't get the Prime Minister, can we hear from you, Yemi, and what, again, the same question, a decentralized African diaspora and digital economy would look like?
Decentralized, digital economy.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay. It's well, as I said earlier on, it's more to do with the services that you can actually provide from different countries, different communities within the African countries, and using a platform like blockchain to provide this kind of services, and having a coin infrastructure on top of that as well. And I'm looking at that more into how can certain services be on that platform, and how can we start to exchange on that. So it's more or less going to be looking like that. That's basically what I'll be looking at if I was going to be looking at the decentralized digital economy. So if I was a legal professional, how would I be able to offer my services on that platform and get paid for it based on the time I spent? And would I have the actual applications running on that would enable me to do that? And also looking at other transactions that would enable me to predict what my possible outcomes is going to be over the next few, maybe months or maybe years as well, based on all the different data that is on that platform. So it's a bit like saying we want to collaborate data using AI, using robotics, or using a lot of all this new stuff happening to get to where we want to get to, using different services on that same platform all over the continent. So it could be a farmer in East Africa who's saying, okay, this year I need to grow certain things, and there's a consumer somewhere in Gambia who's able to connect with that person, and knowing full well that they will be able to get the goods at the right time when they need it. So it's just that on that platform. So that's the kind of thing I see, a collaboration of services on one platform where people can interact and still get paid on it.
So again, with blockchain technology, we're really creating a blue ocean space.
Yeah.
And more importantly, what we can do exponentially is grow the intra-African trade, which at the moment is something like 18%, which is so nominal. So there's such a massive opportunity to grow intra-African trade. And when you think about the intra-African diaspora trade, that's huge. That we know that is worth trillions. So because we know that we have around a 4.5 to 5 trillion spending power globally between us, now when we start to grow the intra-African trade and consumption, we actually now grow out, which is adding to the case that Paul made, that we're investing in ourselves. And there's no better vehicle to do that with than our own currency, because we are now taking that into our own ecosystem. And when we're doing that, we're actually, it's going to be employed. Even the philanthropic possibilities are huge because the scale is grown so much more, creating hospitals, schools, universities, and any of the municipal programs in working with governments. We now come with the power that China do in terms of being a diaspora, working through the Diaspora Region Council, because, and the difference between us and a China or a Britain or the United States is we're talking about direct investment on the continent as opposed to aid, which has terms. But we know what the trade-off is for that we want. So we've got to start engaging a lot more. We've got to start engaging with each other and having the kind of masterminds that really count, based on expertise, as Paul said, that have been on the plantation, that have got 10, 15, 20 years of experience, that can pull that around the kind of boardrooms that are really going to make an impact, to be able to go to a VC and say, let's build out this MVP and deliver it. And there is a 1.5 billion marketplace to consume. So, Daryl, just in rounding out, if you could give us your details, where we can find you and where we can sign up for an expression of interest.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm available. My favorite is LinkedIn. We talked about the human capital element, and we definitely I spend 90% of my time on LinkedIn. 95% of our team, which is in 4 or 5 countries, has come from LinkedIn. So very great thing. And human capital is amazing. I'm on Instagram, Twitter. Also, it's Daryl Speaks. On LinkedIn, it's Daryl Speaks. Facebook, Daryl Speaks. Instagram, it would be under Sable Ascent. And then you can take my number. I'm at Daryl at sableascent.net, spelled SABLEASSENT.net. And my phone number is, Dean can share that with you, 305-440-6354. And it's real simple. To register to be a part of the Sable Ascent ecosystem as a Black-owned business is absolutely free. We've been listed with the Jamaican Stock Exchange and the Nigerian Stock Exchange. We will be listed on both, one of the few dual listed Black companies probably on the planet, as a global remittance provider. That's how they coined us. So to be pegged as a global remittance provider puts us at the top of global remittance providers globally, because they see where we're going.
Yeah.
So you can go right to the website. Just put your basic information. We do have a MVP back office that got to be actually calling our Black businesses to find out their needs, not to sell them a lot of things, just to say, okay, what do you need? Do you have your website? And we'll be working with human capital all over the world to employ at higher wages in stablecoin. So that's an amazing thing. So we'll have the ability to hire with our currency as well. Use all of the Black human capital in technology and generating a huge gig economy for all these types of things, just like the Indians are doing it right now. So that's great. And last thing I want to leave with, Dean, is why I'm excited. Another piece is the only thing that really truly separates us across the diaspora is really just water.
Absolutely.
In the U.S., guys, and I'm sure you got it in London and in Africa too, is you got a lot of malls, you got a lot of strip malls, right? And one thing you guys can all attest to is that all of the stores in the strip malls look identical. They all look the same. The buildings are the same. The floor plans are the same. They're all the same. So one of my things in that whole each one teach one, one band, one sound strategy, and also, like I said, we are going to assist in the role of creating every factory and producing and consuming everything that we produce. That's part of the mission that my team is, and building malls of Black businesses everywhere. You see, all of the spaces around the African continent and these other countries that have nothing is because we're not taking our Black businesses there.
Yeah,
we're just not even there yet. So the application is positioned to take all of our businesses to every country. Every country will have our businesses. If there's a million Black businesses in Jamaica, so be it. If there's a million Black businesses in every country within Africa or 54. Well, so be it. You know, just like Starbucks and McDonald's and all these other companies. All we have to do is assist them in doing that. And we have the capital, we have the infrastructure, and now we have the currency.
Absolutely. Thank you, Daryl. And Robert, if you would like to close us out with your thoughts, sir.
Yeah, I just wanted to say this was an essential book whilst developing the model for where we was going and for what we want to do in the future. I thought it was very important to be able to understand blockchain technology and what can be built upon it. And you know, I had an interest initially in the crypto, but then I saw the different applications which was happening, and I'd see the IPOs on, you know, the various different applications. I'll look into them, and I'll be more interested in not investing in the coin, but actually seeing how these things were utilized. So I've kind of looked into that in regards to video and realized there's a formula for people to actually get paid in watching the content. You know, so I definitely think that the future is definitely blockchain technology, and as much as our business as possible should be underpinned on that technology, understanding that technology, because it's the way going forward, and it enables trust, it enables businesses to have trust and have a perfect ledger moving forward. In regards to us as a medium, as I said, we can plug into every aspect of the realms of human existence in what we do. I think Nearly for the Junior gave us 9 fields of endeavors that humans are involved in, and we plug into all nine of them. And you know, we just want to say to people, look, we need to understand that with the technology that we have nowadays, we are one. We are connected globally. It's what we do with those connections. Yes. Just these conversations that we've had here today. I think we connected today on LinkedIn. Me and Darryl already connected today on LinkedIn. It's now about having that conversation where I can speak about and discuss the plan which I've got moving forward and how that coin plugs in. You know, when he's talking about the massive adoption of branding and understanding how we develop those brands and get them. You know, our job, you know, I stay in my lane, very much so, and work to perfect that. And my job is to become that visualization of everything which is being delivered, so people are able to see the Sable Ascent coin, see the utilization of it, get the testimonies, you know, and all that kind of stuff, and fit it into what we do. So I'm looking very forward to moving forward with what we do here. I know yourself, Dean, in regards to it, you know, building institutions. You know, since I met you, that's been a key conversation that you had. And I think you know, things come and go, but institutions last. And the thing with institutions, they are protected by hook or high water. You know, the reason you can't get certain prosecutions in the police force and so on and so forth is simply because they're protecting their institutions. Absolutely. So, you know, we have to understand the importance of institutions. You've mentioned today trusts. You know, hopefully we can have that conversation again in the future, and plug these things. But I definitely see a digital underpinning and an understanding of blockchain and how that works, and how our various different businesses can fit into that. So, you know, this has been a phenomenal conversation. I'd like to say to all those listeners who are maybe watching this, to get an idea of some of the content we're creating, you can go to our YouTube page, just type in HMP TV. By the way, HMP TV stands for Helping My People Television. And its name, it says what it does on the tin. The whole objective is to help our people, you know, wherever we may be on the globe. You can go to YouTube and see our stuff. Our actual platform is www.hmptv.online. We were hoping to roll it out in the next couple of weeks, but the designer's talking COVID-19 blues. So I may have to talk to Paul and connect with some of his people who seem to be operating at this very moment without those excuses. So, you know, you can go there. If you have any questions to ask us in regards to what we're doing, you can go to info@hmptv.online, and we'll just get back to you with what we're doing. And we've also got a production company, so we produce videos for businesses, specifically for businesses, so they can get their businesses out there. And we want to have just like YouTube, when you have those, you go to watch a piece of content. Before that, you've got a video of Squarespace or GoDaddy. You know, we want the black alternatives occupying that video space in our businesses. Just like you watch TV shows and you see the pop-up ads, especially in the US, come up. We've got that system built into our platform. So we want those black businesses popping up so people can see that. You know, our job is to just make sure all eyes are on board of everything that's happening in our community. Me and Paul are due to have a conversation. You know, I've had to write the book first. You know, Paul finished his book already. I had to write the book first. So when we sit down, you know, I can produce the book and then we can have a far better conversation than the one we had a year ago at the team event. So, you know, with that, the future's bright, the future's black, you know?
Yes, bright black. Mr. Lauren, if you could give us your closing thoughts, sir.
Just to close, I would say, first of all, big thank you for MediaNet Live TV for providing the platform for this. Thanks to Dean for inviting me. Thanks for Yemi, Robert, and Daryl for joining. The contributions for me have been sound, and I think it bodes well because you know, we for a long time consume a lot of stuff, but this is a demonstration of us coming together on one of our own platforms, MediaNet Live TV, bringing together our levels of expertise and sharing our knowledge freely. Yeah, you know, we all have companies, we all want our companies to do well, but I think more important out of this conversation, I'm hoping that the people who've been watching start to really understand, accept, and get ready to participate in the level of knowledge that the Black community in the diaspora have. We have a lot of knowledge. We've done a lot of stuff. We've seen a lot of stuff. We've built empires for people. And I think what we're saying now is that we're now ready to take some of that energy, that knowledge, that ethos to build some empires for our own. So, you know, I'm open to discussions and conversations about any types of collaboration. I've always made it very, very clear that Just Tickets is a vehicle. It's the first step of many. I'll be trying to roll out from this point forward a platform every single year for as long as God, Buddha, Allah, whoever chooses to keep me on this earth. Because quite simply, I have to make sure that none of our people are in a situation where they say they want a service and I either can't provide the service or I don't know someone who does. So Robert mentioned a group called Team. They're the best Black business group I'm involved in. And that is about connecting diverse businesses. So Just Tickets, we're talking about phase 1 now. We're looking at phase 2, the US, the Caribbean, and then of course, the ultimate original goal, which was to take it into the African continent, starting with Nigeria, moving to Ghana and taking it going. They say, you know, if you're going to go, you go big.
Absolutely.
And that's exactly what we're looking at. I just feel very supported when I look at the level of knowledge and intent, because you know there's a lot of people who have the knowledge, a lot of people who have the skill, but they don't have the intent. They're too risk adverse to step out and do what Robert has done, to do what Daryl has done, to put their money literally where their mouth is. And a lot of people will always say woulda, coulda, shoulda. Well, we're not in that brigade. And I think our community does have a lot of future ahead of it in terms of what we can do, because we're not looking at the traditional businesses anymore. I'm not talking to a set of guys who are doing the traditional stuff. Nothing wrong with the traditional stuff. But if we're going to do what Daryl says by consuming what we produce, then we need to have a wider net of services and start to look into the non-traditional, because we use them, we should produce them. So Just Tickets, that's what we're on.
And any last points any of you gentlemen would like to make before I close out? Then I'd like, please.
No, once again, you know, being a, I don't know if you can hear me.
Yep.
Once again, just being a media person, respecting the hard work which is done behind the scenes from Theo. I mean, if this is streaming, I don't know what he's streaming it on. I don't know if it's going to YouTube. But whilst you are there, you know, hit that subscription button. So much people just watch and consume our content and don't do the necessaries, such as just hit that button. It helps us with our analytics. It helps us to go back into our back end pages and look at what's happening, what our people are interested in, and then create better content based on that, because it is all about data. You know, every time you hit that emoji, a company knows exactly what you like, and then they run off and go and build the same thing off the things that we like. So, you know, Theo, I know you're behind there sweating like a madman at the moment, putting this stuff together. You know, just 100%, you know, hit that button if you have the opportunity to hit that button and just support by any means necessary. And that's another key thing. You know, we can have these conversations, but we've really got to get our people to support, because when I watch the kind of conversations on Facebook, you know, I hear about support this, support that, support this, support that. I ask people, well, just click that button over there. That would be a great support for us, cost nothing. And it doesn't happen. Today, I had a phenomenal result. So I actually used a method. Every time someone said, you know, you should support a black business, when I posted my business underneath and said, well, go there and support that then. And, you know, and I kind of put it on them, and the results we got today in subscriber growth, you know, was phenomenal. In fact, we've only been pushing for 2.5 weeks in regards to getting our content out there. So, you know, the key thing is that people support at every opportunity. If something exists, you know, if you've got an event, I go to a lot of places and I see the same old brands where people are buying tickets, and I'm asking them like, but I know you're aware this company exists. Why are you not using them? You know, why are you not using Just Tickets? Is it a personal thing? I don't understand the problem here. So it's very, very key that we begin supporting, because that is what enables us to grow. I don't know what the situation is in the US, but you know, definitely over here we have to get used to supporting these fledgling businesses, because 2 to 3 years from now, if the business acumen is right, what those businesses will become is absolutely phenomenal, and that wealth grows within all of us, and that's key.
So thank you, Robert, for stealing my line in thanking our
Man, I can't steal it like you, man.
A phenomenal channel and platform for podcasters that we want to see grow out. And if you are a podcaster and you've got a show idea or a sponsor that wants to see your product delivered to the massive audience that MediaNet draws, please contact MediaNet. You can go to YouTube, MediaNet TV, and subscribe and send your details. Our details at AdPack are info@adpac.net, adpac.net, and I'll pass any of your questions and concerns on to everybody on the panel and Theo at MediaNet. So what we realize now is the world is going to be a very different place as we emerge from the COVID-19 lockdown. We need to be thinking in much more creative ways. We need to be thinking in much more fluid ways, and we need to be thinking about sweat equity. So these jobs that we came from on the plantation may not exist when we come out of this. And we need to utilize every minute of this time to be engaging our peers in building out the propositions that we have to make these MVPs more robust. Paul said it, we have minimum viable products. We have them across the board. So what it would be great to see, and I will put a forum together tomorrow on LinkedIn at Dean Okai Senior, Dean OKAI Senior, SNR, on LinkedIn, so that we can see just how many of us there are in technical delivery, design, marketing, sales, because I've got 4,800 African diaspora and LinkedIn connections, and I know we go across every single expertise at the highest echelons within those expertise. So thank you for watching the debate this evening. Hopefully we can continue that tomorrow on LinkedIn. Have a great week. I hope everybody is adjusting to the COVID-19 protocols, and we are now starting to connect and think in different ways outside of the traditional roles that we had before, because they may not even exist. Let's start building our economy and enabling the continent to enable us. Thank you for watching.